Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bankroll Burners, the podcast for poker players who can't stop getting it in bad. I'm Mike,
And I'm Josh.
and we are here, as always, to bring you some recently played poker hands, to go through them and dissect them and learn how we could have played them better.
And of course, we always could have.
We always could have. We have an exciting week ahead of us because Josh is taking a trip down to Jacksonville to play with the fishies here in Florida, myself included. So that should generate some entertaining content to be sure. Maybe we can get on the Best Bet live stream together and
Yeah,
do some
and
on camera.
remind me again, what's the buy-in structure like for the 2-5 game at Best Bet Jacksonville? Is it
For
750
two
cap?
five or 2-2?
The 2-5.
The 2-5 game is a $800 cap.
That's pretty big. I was thinking about playing 2-5 because the 2-2 I think is a $300 cap, which is it is still a little shallow. I'd like to play a little bit bigger, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I'd like to
absolutely.
donate my money to some of the higher stakes regs.
Yeah, I
Higher
think that,
stakes, I say, as we talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
2-5.
True high stakes 2-5. Yeah, there. I've heard that the 2-5 games at Best Buy Jacksonville are fairly reg infested. I only played 2-5 there once. Other than that, I've only played 2-5 at Best Buy Orange Park. And the games are definitely not reg infested at Orange Park. Uh,
Yeah.
but uh, but the cap there is $500, which is just like kind of brutal.
Right.
Especially for my sort of strategy where I like to do a lot of free betting, which
Yeah, I considered playing some 2-5 at Encore over the last couple weeks, but the 1-3 games have just been so good. Like, even when, if you look at, like, the little ring in the poker, like, the tracker that in the tablet that, like, the dealers use, you can see whether
Mhm.
people have a card or not, which is kind of a good gauge for whether someone's, like, a reg. And even when, like, every single person is reggy, the games are, like, very good, and most of the regs are not good.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter. It's more a matter. Whereas 2-5, I know plays quite a lot tighter most of the time, and actually has a lot of like more solid players. So when playing 1-3, it's more a matter of finding the bad like aggro / loose regs than finding the bad like total nits.
Mhm. Absolutely. So. All right. Well, anyway, I'll kick us off here. We're gonna break our normal tradition here at Bankroll Burners, where we always like to do blind react hands where the other person has not seen the hand before. We're gonna break that rule just this once, because I have a hand from the Best Bet live stream, which I played on for the first time this week, that I thought was very interesting. And Josh has seen this hand, so you know, do with that what you will. But I think this was a pretty fun hand, so I'll go ahead and get into it.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's not necessarily breaking the rule because we have done hands that we played against each other, which of course we're not blind.
that's true as well.
So ha.
We've
But
never broken the rules, or we've always broken the rules. Um, okay, so this live stream was pretty fun. It was a 2-2 live stream, and the table was very chatty, active. Everyone wanted to straddle. The straddle was on pretty much the entire time I was on the table. There were some blind raises to double, and because they don't allow double straddling, so we had some blind raises, even some double blind raises up to $20, which was pretty fun. But this hand was just a regular old straddled pot. And I'm actually in the straddle of this hand, and I was 380 effective, so pretty short. That the buy-in cap to this stream was 500, and I think I'd lost like a couple of smaller pots, and I
so
was
so they let you buy in deeper to the stream than they do to the normal 2-2 game.
They do, which is part of the reason I want to play in the stream more.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, that's great. That is much nicer than being sort of stuck at 300. It's
yeah,
weird that they don't just have a $500 cap throughout.
I think it's because recreational players are often intimidated by larger stacks. That's just sort of my take. So maybe they don't like to see people at the table with bigger stacks, and people will play more if people are short. Would be my guess. Um, at any rate, so I'm in the straddle hand. The first to act player, so under the gun or under the gun +1, depending on how you look at it, limps, and the hijack limps, and it folds all the way back to me in the straddle, and I'm sitting there with King 5 offsuit, which I choose to check my option. How do
And
we
what are
feel?
the suits of those, just for reference?
Um, we had it was, I believe, the 5 of spades, and the King of hearts. Yeah.
Said in the usual order.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that was what it was. I didn't actually happen to jot that down. I guess I could check the stream. But um, so I don't raise
just
his
going
hand.
3 ways here in a limped, albeit straddled pot.
Yeah. I mean, I could see an argument for like raising this hand if we think that our opponents are just really bad and just like really tight and nitty and will fold. I did kind of pick up on that later on in the stream that people were like limp folding a lot, so I did start making some speculative raises.
I still think this is too speculative.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I did not consider raising this at the time, so I did just check it.
And it's worth noting that if you're going to consider, I've heard that if you're going to consider speculative raises with like King X, King 6 is the best candidate because you can occasionally cooler aces on straight boards.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So if you had King 6 offsuit, I'd be like, get after it.
Get after it. No, so we're sitting here in this limp pot, and the flop comes out 10 of hearts, 5 of clubs, 3 of diamonds.
10 of hearts, 5 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. So we've got middle pair here.
Yep, we got middle pair 3 ways. And what my typical strategy in limp pots that I've developed over the last few months is if I flop middle pair or better, I will just bet. Unless the board is like highly connected or something. But if it's a fairly disconnected board, then I will usually bet middle pair or better for value and protection. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I'm kind of I see the point. There's definitely plenty of protection to be had. You can get called super light on flops and limped pots. Like people will call you with all sorts of high card junk, especially on a board like this where people can easily just have like random overcards that they feel like calling you with. But at the same time, when you're playing multi-way, like, and people's ranges are so wide, I don't know that like middle pair is ahead of those ranges necessarily. It's just hard to tell, and it's so villain dependent. So I usually wind up checking my middle pairs personally, but that's not to say I don't really know the straddle theory or limp.
Well,
theory.
yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure there's not really any kind of I don't know that there'd be any wisdom to be gained from like a solver or something looking at these multi-way limbed pots. Probably
there wouldn't.
But I do think generally speaking, check calling in limped pots is fine, but I guess my experience with betting these middle pairs is it tends to go okay because you do clean up a lot of random equity that could just beat you on later streets. You do consolidate your equity a bit, and you will just get called by absolute trash hands because people don't believe you in limped pots because they're like, this guy's never going to use it's limped pot. So
sure,
I mean, you will occasionally value own yourself, but that's why it's nice to do this on the flop, not on the turn. Because you can make a pretty small bet.
Yeah, and of course, equity denial a lot more relevant on the flop for sure because people will float you wide versus there's they have a lot less equity if they just have like a random overcard on like the turn.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see rationale for a check here though. You're saying you would check this spot.
I would probably check this spot.
Would you check call?
I mean, I'd check call if it was heads up. Yeah.
If it goes like bet call, you would just fold.
Yeah. Because I think you're just behind so often there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, the under the gun limper calls.
So how much did you bet? $10
I bet
or 15?
10. I bet 10.
Yep.
And under the gun limper calls and the hijack folds.
Yep. Okay.
And this player was a pretty splashy, aggressive player. So I wouldn't call them like a lag, certainly not, but they were fairly splashy.
Makes sense, especially on a stream, you'd expect people, even though it sounds like this is not a stream that you necessarily need to be invited to, but still probably people want to look cool for the viewers.
Yeah, that's right. If people on the stream, you just push your name on a list, but definitely, some
yeah, I believe I saw you raise 9-6 offsuit at one point.
Absolutely. Well, we got to raise big lick on stream. But,
okay.
We got floated by ace high on the flop, and he got there on the river. So classic.
River rat.
Exactly. So anyway.
Okay, so heads up to a turn.
Yep. And the turn is a bank 5 of diamonds, so we make trips.
Nice, and it does add a diamond draw here.
It does.
And, I mean, some random straight draws. But that would require... Oh, no, it doesn't add any straight draws. It just maintains the existing ones. Hedor.
Correct, yes. Yeah, so you cannot add a straight draw by pairing the board every turn.
Good poker theory.
Yeah. So the board is now 10 of hearts, 5 of clubs, 3 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, and action is, of course, on me again, and we have a very strong hand. I think a bet is mandatory here.
Yeah, I think when we bet and just get called on the flop... I mean, it is kind of interesting. Like, if you went by ranges, you would expect the caller to have more 5s than the better. But, you know, it's a limped pot, so it kind of goes out the window a bit. But that's, you know, so I'm happy to bet here for sure. I mean, we got called on the flop, and we can just turn up the heat here.
Right. I mean, look, if he has a 5, you know, odds are it's a worse 5. So,
yeah, and we're gonna get it in. Well, I just mean, you know, then the argument would be to check raise, not to like check call or for pocket.
I see. Yeah. Like that. No, it's true. I mean, you do think in the single raise pot, typically the middle card pairing is going to be checked a lot,
right,
by the previous street's aggressor. But I think in a limp pot, it's interesting. Like, what is his range here? I mean, he doesn't. There's no flush draws on the flop. I mean, he could just have random high cards. You know, in which case, he's probably not going to bet.
Right, and we're not going to get called no matter what size we use. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, he can have some 10s, which certainly will call any size bet, probably. He can obviously have a worse 5, which should raise. There are not a ton of draws available. There's, like, 6, 7 of diamonds, 6, 4 of diamonds, deuce 4 of diamonds, ace 4 of diamonds, ace deuce of diamonds. I think they're mostly like gut shot on the flop, you know, that if we're talking about draws that are going to call, like, it's going to be gut shots on the flop that then pick up a flush draw to go along with it.
And 10s, yeah.
Probably won't call like a normal gut shot, really, any size bet on the turn. Usually they don't.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I do think a bet is reasonable. I think a large bet is in order because I do think this is a pretty polarized spot. Like, I think we might check some 10x here, especially sort of our weaker 10x is probably doing a fair amount of checking on this card.
So you large bet. Are you thinking like pot or like near pot or like over bet? I mean, can we over bet because it's a limped pot and no one cares about pot size? That's kind of my question. Is like, could we get really greedy here and bet like 40 or 50?
I mean, we probably could, but, you know, if we think his range is a lot of draws, like, some of those draws might, like, fold to overbets, which is not what we want.
Sure.
So, you know, maybe we just bet sort of near pot, because, I mean, you know, we bet $30, he's definitely going to call with some kind of diamond draw, any sort of, you know, whatever. So I'm pretty happy to go close to pot, but I don't know that, I mean... You know, we probably could overbet because, like, we have a really strong hand and it's a limped pot, so it's probably fine.
Yeah, I guess, like, I wonder, like, as an exploit, if we could just be like, we know that people don't really look at the pot size, and so, like, betting $40, they're not going to be like, oh my god, that's a huge bet. They're just going to be like, well, it's a $40 bet. I mean, I do think draws-wise, I guess I was saying, like, I don't think there's that many draws. Like, I think the draw has to have been, like, a gut shot or open-ender on the flop that then picks up diamonds. So I don't actually think he has that many draws. Like, I think mostly we're targeting a 10 or a worse 5.
Right.
In which case, I feel like we could just bet like $40. He's not going to fold a 10 if we bet $40.
Yeah. So maybe. Yeah, I could be convinced.
I mean, I would fold a 10 if someone bet $40 here, but you know. Well, would I? I don't know. Depends on the 10.
Yeah, like 10-8, you'd probably fold.
Oh, sure, yeah. But I don't know. I didn't think of it in the moment. In the moment, I just bet 25, but I think I should have bet more.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea.
I just, you know, limp pots are so fun. You know, they're like, you throw all the theory out the window and you just try to play like very exploitatively. But anyway, he ends up doing some work for us by raising to 75.
Okay. That is nice. So, you know, he's doing the he's like, we're building this pot right up.
Exactly. So at this point, my thought is, you know, he's either got, I mean, he could be full of shit, first of all. Like, he could just be, this could be like he has like a very crappy 10 and he wants to see where he's at type of thing.
Maybe. I feel like he probably, if you think he's full of shit, I think it's more that he like really has nothing, you know, like, or like he has 2 random high cards and he wants to blow you off your hand or something like that. I feel like people don't make this play with like a 10 particularly often.
No, you're right. You're right. I think that's true. So, he could have some random high cards. He could have like a combo draw, like we talked about, or he can have obviously a 5, which is more likely to be a worse 5 than a better 5.
Yeah.
There's only one better 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he's just trying to blow me off the pot, most of the time he probably isn't going to be going for it on the river. So I think we need to just sort of not really take those hands into account and just think how we want to play against the combo draws and the worst 5s. And I think we just want to put more money in. I think bet 3-betting here makes more sense than just calling.
Right. I think if we call, we might, if we call, I do think he's going to shut down when he misses a lot on the river.
Also true.
So I do like 3-betting here. Yes, all that to say, we're almost always good here. Our hand is, it's not really vulnerable, but we're out of position, so we want to sort of keep the betting lead and be able to sort of make decisions on the river.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question here, and I thought about this a lot on this for a little too long in the stream. I think I tanked a little too long, but I was trying to figure out like what kind of sizing to use because the stack sizes are so awkward. I felt at the moment I knew that I couldn't just jam because it would be a pretty large overbet.
It would be around 1.5x pot, right? Because if we called this bet, then there'd be like 180 in the pot, and we'd have like 290 behind, so we'd be jamming for just over 1.5x pot.
Yeah. So I wasn't really thinking to jam. What I did end up doing was kind of like almost min clicking it. I made it 165.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I kind of just like jamming here. Like, I don't know. I think like a 1.5x pot overbet like on its own would seem a little suspect. But like when the stack sizes are so small that like that's a jam, I feel like it's a little bit more reasonable to just be like, well, no other 3-bet size really like makes a ton of sense, or else I'll have to click it back and just kind of let him continue with, all the non-complete air hands that he has.
Right. I mean, if we know that he either like if we're thinking he either has a 5 or a combo draw, right? That's it. Or some random high cards that aren't going to give me any action anyway.
Which I think is I would think is pretty much always the case here.
Do you think he ever has like a boat? Like what boats could he have?
He
like
could have pocket 3s. He could have 5-3 suited, depending on which there's 2 combos or there's 1 combo of. So he has 4 boats, I would say, in his range. I don't think anyone is really playing 10-5.
Probably not like from like first to act.
Yeah, and there's one other combo of that, so he could pretty much just discount it anyway, suited, right? So he's just got pocket. He's got like 4 boats. So and it's just got like a bajillion 5s, I would think.
Yeah, he probably has like Queen 5 suited, Jack 5 suited.
Like a lot of maybe all the 5,
like
6,
5 suited.
Yeah, you can have like all the 6-5 or 5-4 depending on how like.
Yeah.
And he can have and like we said, he does have a good amount of combo draws. So I do think we're ahead often enough. I mean, he could have like all the ace 5s too, which is a little bit problematic, but.
Yeah, he probably has like he could have like literally not 16, but 8 combos of ace 5.
We have a 5
or 4. I'm sorry, 4 combos of ace 5, which isn't.
So I think it's close, but min clicking it is just a little. I don't know. I try to stay away from that a lot unless I'm going like super exploitative, and I know that a guy is just like never. There are some guys who you just know are not going to give you action unless you raise super small, so you just exploit the hell out of them.
You're just like fairly nitty. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've tried to employ the min click strat because like this is something Bart Hansen talks about sometimes. Where like if you would slow play, then instead like min click it because live players aren't going to like feel the difference. But in my experience, a lot of people will just fold to a min click anyway. Or if they were going to call a min click, they would also call a jam. So,
right.
Or a normal size raise. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like, just ripping it in here. Like, is he ever going to fold a 5?
No, he's never ever going to fold a 5.
Right, probably not. And then, like, is he ever going to fold a sick combo draw, like an ace 4 of diamonds?
I mean, he should, right? But he's probably not going to.
But, like, players, when they have a straight flush draw, are like, they lose their minds usually. So.
Like, there's a high hand promo one, right?
Yeah, exactly. The steel wheel plus, they have a steel wheel bonus. So.
Yeah.
Worth $100. So, if you hit a steel wheel. Okay, well, I think you're probably right that jamming is like as an exploit again is just like people aren't gonna fold to a jam with the range we kind of have assigned to him, even though he probably like should fold some hands. Like he should definitely fold his combo draws, but he probably will not. So.
I mean, I even think jamming like could be balanced here. Like we could balance it out with like we have all the 6-4 in our range, like every single combo of it because we are the straddle, and so we also have like a lot of like ace deuce type hands. So I think we could probably and like 6-4 is a great combo to bluff with, especially the ones that block like the 6-5 and the 4-5 suited. So I do think we could be balanced by doing this if we so desires.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, but I guess I don't know that I would want to do it just because, like, I think his range is really mostly hands. Like, I think what we've kind of established here is his range mostly consists of hands that just won't fold.
Right, and that's reasonable too. Like, I'm just saying, if we wanted to, if we were in a situation similar to this where our villain maybe had a more to their range, then we could make make this a balanced play. But as is, if we think our villain's just never folding, then we should just rip it here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I don't. I clicked it back.
So you made it 160?
165.
Okay.
And he calls.
So that adds 330 to the pot. And now there's 200. So there's 200 behind and like 360 in the pot.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
The river is pretty much a blank. It's the Queen of Hearts. So unless he had like Queen 5 suited, which I'm not even sure
there's
is
no longer
awesome.
a combo of Queen 5 suited.
Yeah, so he really is a blank.
Yep.
So I wasn't sure what to do here because, of course, all the draws brick. So if he has a busted draw, he's not going to call it jam. And if he has a 5, I'm assuming he's going to jam himself if I were to check to him. I don't know. Do you think that is
I think
valid?
most of the time, especially if he's like if he's reasonably aggressive, which it sounds like he is, like not a lag, but not the type of player who's checking back a 5 on the river because they're scared of going broke.
Right. Yeah, definitely that would not describe him. I mean, he might do something weird like bet only 100 or whatever, in which case I guess we just would call.
No, I think you probably rip it there. Because of like reverse pot odds, right? It's like a thing where if you rip it, he just has to call with like everything.
Oh, sure.
If he made a queen with like ace queen of diamonds or something, he just can't fold.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I think the right move here is probably to check. As played, I think I'm supposed to just check because I don't like. You're not. I guess check calling the river in low stakes is almost always a mistake. But this just because usually people don't value bet thin enough. But again, we've sort of focused his range into really just hands that will value bet or hands that will not call a bet. That's it.
Right.
Like,
so even that means like even if he's not bluffing that much, we're still gonna make more by check calling here.
I think so because obviously we're never going to check fold. So, if he has ace 5, fine,
right.
Whatever, give my money. But yeah, so I think checking here is really the play. I think this was probably my biggest mistake on the stream where I actually did shove all in here, and I really think that I should not have done. I think I should have either shoved turn. I think shoving turn really, you've convinced me, is kind of the best play here. But the way I played it, I really think checking river is absolutely what I should do. I did jam and he snap folded 4 deuce of diamonds.
Yeah. I think either way, either shoving turn or checking river with the intention of check calling makes sense. I mean, I think the shove will still get us paid sometimes, so it's definitely.
Oh yeah, I mean if he has a 5.
Yeah, it's definitely plus EV to shove also, but I think it probably works out better to check.
Yeah. Very rarely is it true that in low stakes live poker you should check call, but I think this is just one of those spots.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting when live players, tell you what their hand is, believe them, right?
No. What?
When their actions? You mean
how they play?
Yeah, when their actions.
Yeah. I was gonna say no. I never believe anything anyone says about their hands.
No, if someone if the way someone plays just tells you what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. No. I think I made a blunder in real time here, couple blunders perhaps, but yeah, I need to just start check shoving these spots more often for sure. So
Yeah, it's always so awkward with the stack sizes. Like,
but this is a mistake that I've made many times on this podcast so far. So for our viewers keeping track, yes, I am just like that bad at learning how to be.
Put up the tally mark.
Yeah. It's probably like the fourth hand I've brought on where you were like, you really should have checked shove turn. I was like, yeah, you're right. So
yeah, I mean, and I will say I check shove, with those stack sizes reasonably often, and most of the time people just fold. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. So okay, well,
all right, should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, so this is from my usual 1-3 Encore Boston Harbor game. This is a game I played last night. It was a ton of fun. Had a good table. Things were good. The straddle was on occasionally. There were some blind raises going on occasionally. So there were a couple players who were pretty nitty, who I'd played with before and knew were kind of tight, but there were plenty of action players as well, so it kind of balanced out nicely. The effective stack in this hand is going to be 375, so playing just a touch over 100 big blinds. And in this hand, I am in the big blind, and UTG +1 is going to raise to 10.
Okay.
There's
a small raise for this game, right?
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it definitely is player dependent. Like, I have seen people who always raise to 10 or 11.
Why do people raise to 11?
Craps players. So, I have seen plenty of people who do that, but in general, yes, the standard open is typically 15, if not larger. Like, some people sometimes just bomb at pre-flop with what I assume are strong hands, but are not always.
Well, it's funny you say that. There's a guy in the stream who is consistently opening over in straddled and unstraddled pots to between $30 and $40. When I looked back at the stream, he did not have premium hands. That was just his open size. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. So, anyway, so there's a raise to 10. The cutoff calls, and the cutoff's going to be the main villain in this hand. I'd played with her for an hour or two at this point, and she was like very, very loose and very, very sticky. Like, she did not like to fold. I saw her like make hero calls at showdown with like third pair, like second pair, bad kicker, all sorts of stuff in big pots. So I was like, had this in mind throughout the hand, that she was definitely call happy. The small blind calls, I am in the big blind with 10-9 offsuit, and I complete.
Seems fine. I will note, though, you can fold this hand. Like, as nitty as it sounds, it's really... I might fold this hand, to be honest with you. Like, because you have really bad reverse implied odds in a multi-way spot here. And you don't really have, like, a hand that can make a strong hand, like, most of the time. Like, you're going to end up with, like, bad top pairs a lot. This hand is pretty... Like, it's just a hand that's pretty easily dominated. So you could consider folding this hand here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do, like, understand that. And I, have definitely folded this hand in plenty of in lots of situations. I kind of think that, I feel that I will be able to get away from making, like, a bad top pair. Which does help the reverse implied odds. Like, I don't think people are going to be, like, just bombing it with nothing, especially at this table. Like, I do feel like I can make a fold if I make a top pair and someone shows a lot of aggression. And, I'm getting a really good... I mean, I have to call 7 to win, like, 40.
Sure.
It's like, I agree. Like, I could fold it. I just decided to call.
No, that's fair. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, definitely true. And, of course, it has a little bit less reverse implied odds than some other hands, because... if you make a straight, you're usually going to have the nut straight, except for, like, if it comes king, queen, jack, and someone has ace 10.
Right. So, yeah, fair enough. So, just a thought.
Yeah, reasonable. And I think it's reasonable. I mean, I'm happy to fold it as well. Well, the flop is going to come pretty good for us. It's the king of clubs, jack of diamonds, 7 of spades. So we've got 10-9 offsuit. We flop a double gutter.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Nice to flop a draw.
Yeah, I'm still gonna keep checking. Check and flow.
Well, of course. I mean, you certainly aren't going to be leading out into the pre-flop aggressor on a double Broadway board.
And it checks to the cutoff, who is the main villain, who again is the sort of loose, very sticky player, and also has shown some aggression at times. It checks to her, and she bets 15.
Okay.
Which is so small bet.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I mean, given your read on this player, I suspect you weren't planning to check raise the spot.
Well, I actually was planning on check raising the spot.
Okay.
Just because there are two other players behind me, and I think like I might be in kind of not... I don't know how I'm going to feel about like hitting different cards if I call and like two people... Like if I call, two people call behind me and the turn comes like a queen, I'm going to feel like pretty good, but like someone could feel priced in with like an ace-10 type hand. Whereas if I raise here, like that does kind of help, does make my draw stronger, I think.
Mm. Yeah, it gets rid of any reverse implied odds, certainly.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, this is the problem with playing these hands, but like where you have to start worrying about reverse implied odds. I don't really know if you're deep enough to care about straight over straight.
Right.
Though, to be fair. So I guess like I would normally check raise the spot. I'll tell you what, I would normally check raise the spot because typically when the preflop aggressor checks and someone bets in the field, it's so commonly not a strong hand.
Right.
That's something I think that's another Bart Hansen classic, but I think it's true. It's been in my experience, I always attack the spot and it almost always works.
Especially with a small bet.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, but given your read on this player as being incredibly sticky, though, I don't know that I want to check raise just for that reason.
Yeah, I mean that's probably reasonable. I wasn't even, I was more bringing this hand up for the later streets, but I think that's a good thought that like maybe we just shouldn't, because like I don't think we really ever want to triple barrel this player. Is really what I'm thinking. Also, is like I don't think ever if we were to check raise the spot, like bomb the turn and get called in both spots, I don't think we are ever going to get a fold on the river.
Right, but here's the other thing too. Like if you just call, like again, given your read on this player, if you just call and then you hit your draw, you could get your stack in.
Right, so, I mean that's true. So maybe we do have the actual implied odds to call.
Right, I mean because she will
right.
It's not going to be hard to get stacks in because she'll just call a giant bet. So
right.
You're not even. There's not even a point in like semi bluffing here, where if you're trying to build the pot, so if you get there, you get a big payoff. You don't need to versus a calling station. So.
Right. Yeah, I think that has a lot of merit. Well, anyway, I check raise here.
Yeah.
The small blind folds, and I make it 45, which is basically a third pot because super multi-way. I just think I don't need to bet big to get the original raiser out, and then can evaluate that.
Okay.
But I agree that I think you've definitely convinced me that just calling makes a lot more sense in these spots.
Yeah.
Despite what people say, in my history in low stakes live poker, I'm actually not used to playing against like calling stations.
Yeah, I don't really understand like the notion that live players are calling stations. It's like, no, they're not. Like they're like live players. The average live player is weak tight.
I would call right, and the term that I would use to describe them is scared money.
Sure.
The average, right? It's the same concept. They don't want to stick their stack in.
Right. So like, you should identify calling stations, and you should try to identify them before you lose a lot of money to them. But like, when there is one at the table, like I always try to exploit the hell out of them because it is so like you never bluff them, never bluff them. And then when you make a big hand, they're just going to give you their stack. It's great. Like having a calling station at the table is great.
And I really just think I haven't played against them enough. And I was not thinking about, exploiting her properly because I was just like, I'm just going to like build the pot and then get paid. But really, I don't need to build the pot because I'll get paid anyway, which I think is a really good point.
Yeah, I think the first time I ever did this, like I tried to bluff a guy. I think I bluffed him like 2 or 3 times before I realized he just literally never folds. And then I just didn't play a single pot with him for like 2 hours. And then I picked up some random strong hand and just like overbet 3 streets. And he called me down with like bottom pair. Like,
yeah, that's it. It is such a funny thing where we see the same things online. They're like, never try and bluff live players. They all just press the call button. But yeah, I mean, I hope that you all are playing in places where that is true.
Yeah,
because I'm sure you make bank.
Yeah, it sounds like an easy way to make money. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, all right. So you raise and she calls.
And she's the only one who calls. Yeah. So it is heads up at this point. 130 in the pot, 320 behind, and the turn comes a brick. It is the 4 of hearts, which completes the rainbow.
Okay, that is a total brick. And what are you thinking at this time?
Well, in game, I'm thinking I should just like bet, try and set up a river shove. Maybe make a large bet here. I think I probably should have just gone geometric. But I think I ultimately settled on sort of a larger bet. Just to again, I don't know why. Like thinking about it now, I'm like, yeah, why am I trying to get her to fold? It's not a good idea.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. Like a lot of times, what you're going to do here is like check fold.
Right.
Let's think about this. Like there's 130 in the pot, and you have how much behind? You have
320 behind.
Yeah. So you're not gonna at this point. Honestly, if it goes check and you bink river, if you shove, might she call?
Definitely if she has a king.
Right. So why bet?
Yeah.
And look, you can bet fold here. That's fine. But if it goes, you can check fold here. But if it goes check, like great, you get a free card.
Right.
And if she bets like some ridiculously small amount and gives you 4-1, you can also check call.
Right.
So
yeah, it's just so not used to it. Like, because it definitely can think that way. Like, oh, she bet super small. I call, hit my draw, and donk jam river. Like, sure. Yeah. Right? There's no reason to play, balanced or anything like that.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but I don't really like a bet here.
Well, I bet 105.
Okay. We can step back for a bit and say you didn't know anything about this player. Like, do you have a good candidate for this? I think I would rather have Queen 10.
Queen 10's a good one.
Well, I would rather have Queen 10 because we block more strong kings. Obviously, you don't have any flush draws here, so you do need like some more stuff. I might even like to have like a 7 here, like bottom pair type of bluffs where you're blocking sets as well. I don't know that I like 10-9 specifically as a double barrel here. Like you have to give up some of your flop check raises, and this might be a good candidate just because it doesn't really have any good blocking properties.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I definitely knew. I think that in a vacuum, this is a good hand to give up river, because it pretty much blocks like the call folds, like 10. Like if she has 10-9, if the villain had 10-9, Queen 10, Jack 10, Jack 9, you definitely, those are the hands that you kind of want them to have when you barrel. So a hand like 7-8 or something is a much better triple barrel candidate because you kind of they have just all those hands.
Agreed. Yeah, I would definitely prefer to use like a 7x type of hand as a triple barrel, but
to your point,
I don't think this is a criminal double barrel like in a vacuum. It's fine. I would just say I wouldn't do it all the time. You have better candidates.
Yeah. Well, she calls. Oh
wow, crazy.
Somewhat predictably.
Okay.
And the river comes.
Wait, what's the pot now?
So the pot's now 340. She's got about 215 behind. And the river is the brick of all bricks. It's an offsuit deuce.
Okay. Yeah. So give up.
So I check. I do give, because I did realize even in game I was like, my exploitation went far enough to think, I can't triple barrel this person.
Yeah. Good thinking. Okay.
Okay. Well, she snap checks it back and wins with Queen 10.
Queen 10?
Yeah.
Ew, so you got beat by Queen High.
I did.
Man.
Yeah.
That sucks.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, Queen 10, I don't know, that makes me be like, oh, maybe we should have bet this hand. But no, that's very results-oriented. I think this is a pretty crappy triple barrel candidate, even in a vacuum. And
right, I agree. I think I'd like to have a 7, because also, like, if she is super loose, like, 7x blocks, like, a lot of good hands. Like, she could definitely have King 7, Jack 7, those types of hands. So, and pocket 7s, of course. So it is nice to that's a much better triple barrel. I agree. But I think just calling flop and like playing it much slower while not having the hand just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And Yeah, I mean that's sort of the thing. Yeah, it's sort of a bummer that like you lose to queen high, but
I know, because I was kind of thinking like, wow, like should I just have bombed river even though she's the station? Probably not, but yeah, it's a good podcast hand.
yeah.
But
No,
rather than bombing river, it's like we're really taking the opposite approach of, dude, like just chill.
yeah, definitely bet when you have it and check when you don't. It's nice to do that with these villains that let you. So
Well, we've got a nice punty episode ongoing. I hope you'll continue it.
well, I have a hand that this was like just one of the weirdest hands I've played. And
Okay.
I don't really know. Like I wouldn't say this as much of a punt type of hand, but just being like I had no idea what was going on in this hand. So maybe you could have.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to try. I will say, like, live reading and stuff has not been my strong suit. Although I feel like I'm getting better. It's one of my things I'm working on this year. Hoping to work on this year is, really doing proper live exploits based on some of our experience. And this is a good start, learning how to not bluff calling stations.
Yeah, don't bluff calling stations. That's a classic one. Very
Check.
esoteric, but okay. So this is again a 2-2 game. This is from a couple weeks ago. We're 700 effective in this hand, and I just wrote many limps here. I don't remember exactly how many, but like
is there a straddle on in this hand?
No, this is just straight 2-2, 700 effective. So we're pretty deep.
Many limps.
Many limps. There were lots. So I made it 20 on the button, with black nines.
Yep. I think I'm probably doing this with 8s and above and over limping 7s and below.
Seems fine, yeah. No qualms with that. But yeah, I definitely... Pocket nines is my favorite hand, for those who don't know. I love this hand. Swap many a set with it. So happy to raise it up here. And we get called by the low jack, who is sort of a fine player, and the cutoff, who I would call him Mr. Any2.
Okay.
And
so you think we maybe got like 70 in the pot from the many limps?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. So
okay.
And so nothing too exciting so far. And the flop rolls off 6 of clubs, 5 of clubs, deuce of diamonds.
Okay.
So a low connected board, probably not the sort of board we want to bet all that often. I don't know. What do you think?
I agree. We probably don't want. I mean, we definitely don't want to bet all our hands here.
Yeah.
We probably want to bet a reasonable volume. We can check back like certainly a lot of ace high type hands as give ups. We can check back some over pairs, but probably don't want to check back this specific hand.
I agree. I think we could use some protection, and we also, we certainly can have the best hand here. So.
Oh yeah, it is a little annoying with hands like pocket nines and below is that when you flop an overpair, the board tends to be connected.
Yeah, right. Isn't that funny? There must be some kind of math behind that. So I think probably if I were to bet here, I think I would really want to use, since that's not, maybe I want to use more of a half pot sizing, or do you think 1/3 is better?
I'd probably go half pot because I'd probably go bigger. I'd probably go like 2/3 ish or 3/4 if it was heads up.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think that's fair. I did bet 20, and I think that was a mistake in hindsight.
So villains check, hero bets 20.
Yeah, and I think that was an error. I think I should have gone sized up a bit. But anyway, we get called by both.
That's we can definitely still have the best hand, but we're not in love with that.
No, and that's the thing. Like with this sort of board, we could be like very behind, but we absolutely can have the best hand. Especially again the cutoff here.
Mr.
Really
Any2
can have Any2, and
so,
also tends to continue on flops. So
he could have like 2 overcards.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's another helpful thing of like betting a little bit bigger is just kind of extracting the value while we're pretty sure we have the best hand. Because there are definitely a lot of cards we don't want to see roll off.
Yeah, 100%. So the turn comes the 10 of hearts, which is a relative brick, I thought, anyway.
I think that's pretty innocuous.
Apparently, villains disagree because
both of them.
The low jack goes ahead and leads for 35.
Okay.
Pretty small.
Yeah.
And the cutoff calls.
Wow.
So at this point, I was like, okay, I have no idea what's going on in this hand.
Right.
Um,
So what you should do is you should min click to see where you're at.
ah, that's right. That's the bankroll burners way. We always try to see where we're
That's
at.
like the anti-bankroll burners.
Yeah, yeah. Please don't raise to see where you're at, everybody. Please don't do it. It's not good. It's not a good idea. Um,
Wow,
despite
this
what
is
the
an interesting
5-year-old
spot.
man at your what?
This is a fascinating spot. I'm just looking at the board all of a sudden. Sorry, I stopped thinking about seeing where you're at because...
No, I was just gonna say, despite what the 55-year-old man at your table may tell you, you shouldn't do this. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know what to do, and probably when you don't know what to do, like the highest EV play is to just fold. I think in a multi-way spot. But
I don't think I like folding here, though.
I know.
Because...
I didn't. Obviously, we're talking about this, so obviously I didn't like folding either. But
I even thinking about it now, I don't think I like folding because I don't think either player is hitting this 10 all that often unless they have 10x of clubs.
mm-hmm.
Especially cutoff as you described him as Mr. Any2 is certainly continuing to call here with a 6.
You think? I mean, even on turns, because even players like that, I feel like on turns maybe do tend to like give up a bit more.
Yes, but if he has like a 6 or a 5, or even maybe a 5, right? Like I don't. It depends so much on the player, and like I feel like people really like kind of make, even people who. I've seen individuals definitely do both, where I don't know what they use to decide how they're feeling, what reads they get, right? But it's like if you see an overcard roll off and you formally a top pair, like I feel like people do continue there, at least for one more bet. I mean, is there any merit to like putting in two raising, like not a min click, but like a small raise for value? Because I wouldn't expect, like, it's such a small bet and then a flat call.
Well, you don't think so you think we could raise and get called? I mean, it could be like a combo bet, maybe. Like if someone's like some better hands might fold.
I don't think we're getting a 10 to fold, but I just don't think that these guys. I don't think the cutoff should ever have a 10. I would say the low jack net. Like I think that we could get called by worse and then just like check back almost all rivers.
Interesting.
And just like beat like all like 6x, pocket 8s, pocket 7s.
But like what is low jack doing this with? Like what is a hand low jack is doing this with? That's why I was so lost. I was like
a club
10?
draw?
Like
yeah, it could be a 10, but it could be I mean, people do this with draws. He could be trying to
buy a cheap river. He could be trying to buy a cheap river with a club draw. That's
or a 6. He could be betting with a 6 to see where he's at.
Yeah, you're right.
To be like, did anyone hit this 10? I hope not. I'm going to handcuff them by betting a quarter pot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know if that's a good raise, but I'm just thinking, I'm kind of thinking out loud, like, can we raise here? Can we raise for value here? Because there are so many like draws and crappy one pair hands that I would expect the villains to have here.
But like, and then just check back river. Yeah.
Because like I feel like we'd want to play like kings, queens, jacks as a raise here, and then probably continue on a lot of rivers. Right? Wouldn't you want to raise an overpair in this situation?
If we get called in 2 spots, no. But if we get called in 1 spot,
maybe. Or check back. But I think like we do have a bunch of hands we can raise with here.
Yeah. I'm never a fan of like the trying to buy showdown by raising turn sort of play. But which is kind of what you're describing here. But
I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay with just calling 2. I just, I think that it's going to keep getting hairy if like,
Yeah, I guess there's no really appealing option. I just feel like we value own ourselves a lot when we raise, though, because like someone can have 2 pair here, and they're obviously not going to fold.
But like the low jack bet 35, and the cutoff is flat called twice.
Yeah.
Like it's just unlike right. It is possible, right? People can just take small sizings because they don't realize the size of the pot. But even so, like 35 is not a particularly large bet, even for a low stakes game. So I am kind of thinking about their bet sizing and like the cutoff just calling twice and thinking, this doesn't scream like we're beat here.
This might be one of those like solvery type plays where it's like this hand, like raising 9s here folds out some better hands. Like, well, but it really doesn't though. So
no, I think it's just a value. I mean, it's kind of like the raise you told me to make, You brought up a couple episodes ago with like 8s on like King 4-3, where it's like, our opponents have a lot of better hands, but also, finding these thin value raises is nice. And like
Yeah.
especially here where I just feel based on bet sizing that they don't have super strong hands most of the
No,
time.
you're right. There is a sizing tell here where it's just so unlikely they're strong. But
If low
I just
jack
don't even
bets,
know what weak hands they have. Like that's the thing. There's not even a lot of weak hands that make sense.
yeah, right. I mean that's fair. But like if low jack bet like 60 or more and cutoff called, then I'd be happy to like fold.
It's not full. No, yeah, absolutely. It's just the sizing here is so bizarre. So I do think raising here like to like what you're talking like 100.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that maybe like 110, like a third pot.
Yeah.
Small.
And then we get called in one spot and we kind of evaluate rivers.
We'd probably check your eye. I mean, it's probably too thin to go for value on most rivers.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, you mean like there's hands that will call a raise here but won't call a river bet, like a 6? You
Like
think
a six,
might,
yeah, or like 7, 8
call a
clubs,
raise?
all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah. You think a 6 will call if we raise here?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes.
I don't know. Yeah.
Pocket 7s or pocket 8s can definitely.
Yeah, we could be cool. We could cooler 7s or 8s. That'd be pretty sweet.
Cooler.
Anyway, I did just call, but I felt very weird about the whole situation.
Yeah, I kind of think none of the three options are all that appealing. I do agree with you. Like, I don't know that raising is right, but I feel like I would probably raise here a fair amount just because I think we can. I don't know. I feel like we can definitely get some value.
Yeah. Do you think folding is like too nitty?
I think folding is too nitty.
Okay.
Unless you think low jack is like never slowing down.
I have no idea.
Because like, there are some players who when they bet the turn, they're just always going to bet river. And then, yeah, of course we can fold.
I didn't really see that from this.
I mean, it's 2-2. How many players do you see like that? So
Yeah.
Okay. So we call.
So, the river is like a total brick. I think it was.
How many total bricks are there?
I mean, it was like a king. I'm pretty sure. I just wrote brick, but I'm pretty sure it was like a king. So.
And not a club, but the king of hearts.
Yeah. So.
Okay, because this is like a thing, right? Where then this is kind of like because there are so many overcards that like can roll off. That like now if somebody bets, like I feel like we just have to fold with like third pair.
Yeah.
But like if we raise the turn, we do kind of, give ourselves position and give us a better chance to evaluate. But like now we have like no idea, like because it was such a small bet and a call. Like I don't know. Like does low jack ever have like king deuce, king 5?
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. So, the low jack now checks. So there you go. He's not relentless. And the cutoff now bets 60.
Ugh. Ugh. Wow.
He bet. So the final board now it's 6 of clubs, 5 of clubs, deuce of diamonds, 10 of hearts, king of hearts, let's say, or diamonds. It doesn't matter. Just a total brick here. And then so low jack checks the river. Cutoff bets 60 into where are we at now?
240.
Yeah, 240. So yeah, I mean this is ridiculous. But I just at this point I was like, you know what? I'm folding.
I think a fold is in order. I think that's a good disciplined fold because I might get curious and call, and I think that's probably losing money in the long run, especially in the middle.
Yeah, maybe
heads up. I might call.
Yeah, maybe.
So hero just
heads up. We're getting such a good price. It's like, man.
Right, if the last street the low jack had checked, the cutoff bet 35, we called, the low jack folded, and then the cutoff, continued for a quarter pot on the river, probably just shrug call.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, so we do fold, and the low jack snap calls.
Okay.
And we see the low jack has jack.
Okay.
And the cutoff, Mr. NE2, has 3-4 offsuit for the flop straight.
Wow. I mean, that's live poker at its finest, right? It's just like this is one of those classic showdowns that you look at as like an aggressive player, and you're like, wow, there is $600 left that should be in the pot.
Like it should absolutely like where is the rest of this pot?
Right. It's like I see people get set over set and not get stacks in.
Yeah.
I've seen that multiple times, and I'm like, how did this happen? Why? Like,
but also just to be clear, low jack limp called with pocket jacks pre-flop.
yes.
And then donked turn super small.
yes.
Like what? I don't understand.
And then cutoff, it's worth noting, called flop, called turn, and then bet tiny on the river. Yeah, I don't know.
Right, just by flopping the nuts.
Yeah.
And maintaining the nuts.
So you did save yourself money.
Yeah, if I had raised, I was in last place. It's interesting. I think probably if I raise, like, low jack folds jacks, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or, like, jams.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, right, but, like...
How does this dude bet $60 or 3-4 offsuit? With the nuts here, it's, like, bewildering to me.
The most disguised nuts ever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, that was a hand. That was the strangest hand of poker I've played in a long time.
Wow. Okay, well, I've got another bizarre one where I think you can roast my decision when we get to you can roast my decisions throughout.
Okay.
The first two streets, I think you'll have no problem with. I'll say that.
You think? Well, you thought I was going to be okay with your flop bet. After you were like, so I tried to bluff this calling station.
Yeah, touche. But I do think that this is much more reasonable. The first two streets.
Yeah. Okay.
And only the first two streets. Okay, we're still playing 1-3 at Encore. It's the same table from last night. We are 505 effective.
Okay.
And still a nice table, having some fun. In a rare moment of tightness, it folds to me and the low jack.
No way.
And I have ace queen of hearts, and I open to 15.
Okay. And what did you say the effective stack was here?
505.
505.
And as is so often the case, when we open from the low jack, we get 3 callers, the button and both blinds.
Button and both blinds. All right.
And we've got ace queen of hearts. So we're going 4 ways here. There's now like 60 in the pot, 490 behind.
This is fine. This is a fine hand to take multi-way, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We just got to start with a little caution, depending.
Yeah, it's never that fun to be in the middle, but it could be worse. So.
Well, the flop is pretty unfavorable. It's 10, 8, 6 rainbow, 10 of hearts, 8 of diamonds, 6 of spades. So we've got 2 overs, and we do have a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw, but like a really bad backdoor straight draw. So it checks to me, and I just decide to check this on over.
I think this is an easy check.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not going to be betting this board that much, and like you actually have a decent candidate to check call if the action isn't crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like we do have a lot of backdoor equity. Our top pair outs are going to be live a decent percentage of the time, but it does just check all the way through.
Cool.
So again, we're against the button in both blinds. So 2 people checked to me and 1 person checked behind. This is going to be relevant. Like I said, first 2 streets, no problem, right?
Yeah, no problem so far.
So the turn is now going to come a really interesting card. It's the 6 of hearts.
So we pair the bottom card and introduce. You have the nut flush draw now.
I've got the nut flush draw. The bottom card is paired, and the small blind bets 25, and the big blind folds
60.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this is already kind of. I don't know. I think this is sort of an interesting spot. You could raise here. Certainly, you could call.
Yeah.
I think both are reasonable. Certainly can't fold.
Yep, I agree.
I'm trying to think what I would do. I mean, I would likely raise here, I think.
I decide to just call here. I mean, I kind of thought about it for a while, and I think both are probably fine, but like I'd rather call with like ace queen, ace king of hearts type hands. And
no, actually, you're right. And thinking about this more, also, you don't have that many strong hands here as played, so it doesn't make your raising doesn't make a ton of sense.
Right, like would I raise over pairs here? Sometimes.
You probably could raise jacks.
Yeah.
Which you might check on the flop.
Yeah.
Would you check jacks?
I don't know. Jacks is probably a hand that I want to bet a decent amount.
So what over pairs would you check on the flop, if any? Maybe you wouldn't check any, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'd check. I mean, again, maybe I'd check like aces, but maybe not. I might check it. I probably would do a lot. I mean, I'd probably check some amount of the time with like aces, kings, queens, 4 ways. 10, 8, 6 would probably do a fair amount of checking. And would probably try to mix, but I'm not. Mixing is hard.
Yeah. I mean, so I think if you have some overpairs here, then I think you would probably raise most of those hands. So you do need some bluffs. That being said, like your point you were making, like this isn't a great candidate.
Right, like I'd rather raise with like a suited wheel ace of hearts. I mean, I don't think we have many like combo draws because I think we'd probably bet like queen jack of hearts on the flop. It's probably like a pretty
Jack
good
9 of hearts.
Yeah, those are probably pretty good candidates to be betting on the flop. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we need all that many raises, and I'd definitely rather do it with sort of the low suited aces or a hand like ace 7 of hearts. It's kind of that's like a
or even ace 7 no heart just plans to barrel river.
Yeah, ace 7 no heart or ace 9 maybe. So I'm pretty happy to just call here. It's probably fine to raise too, but I don't want to be
like
bluffing.
I like call. I'm pretty persuaded of that. Okay, so you call.
And then the big blind the button raises to 100. And the small blind tanks for a while and folds.
I mean, this line from button doesn't really make any sense.
Right. And that's kind of that is exactly what I was thinking in game. Is button here can have a 6, but like not that many 6s. Like, he's probably playing suited 6s. It's like maybe he's got 7-6 suited, 6-5 suited, maybe ace 6 suited. Maybe the only other value hand I think it makes sense for him to have is 7-9.
Where he's slow played,
but into 4 play because it is a rainbow board. You could see that slow played, but I don't think he'll ever, and I don't think he's ever playing a 10 this way. Like in the same way that we kind of talked about last hand, is I don't really see villain making this play with just top pair.
Right, I agree. So it's interesting. Like one thing I wonder is, are you ahead of his bluffs?
Which I think we are. A lot of them. I mean, I think we were ahead of like a bunch of like some worse flush draws. Because there aren't that many though.
There aren't that many.
Yeah.
Flush draws.
King Jack of hearts, Jack 9 of hearts, and then there's like 9-8, 8-7, which are paired up, and maybe like 5-4.
I mean, I think we are probably ahead of his bluff, so we could just call here. But I guess I'm wondering about 3-betting to try to get money from a worse flush draw.
Yeah, I don't. But like, I don't know if he has enough worse flush draws. Like, if we count combos, like he definitely has 2 combos of 7-6 suited, 2 combos of 6-5 suited, maybe like 1 of 7-9, just to say he's probably betting it off a lot. And then there's only like we said, there's only like King Jack, King 9, Jack 9, 5-4, which is like what 4 worse flush draws. So I think that we're not ahead. Like, I think that he has more hands that beat us than that we beat.
Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of exploring this, but you're probably right. Like, so you think to just like not check call, but bet call here or call double flat. Yeah,
Ooh, I know.
It's interesting. I don't really think. I wasn't even thinking. I was thinking like, oh, it's a bet 3-bet, but it wouldn't even be. It would be like a call and then back raise, which is. It's pretty nutted usually, but
yeah. But what nutted hands do? Like I checked flop.
You really like 10s.
But I would probably bet 10s with only like I would check 10s out of position to multiple players, but I'd probably bet 10s in position to multiple players.
But he doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's true. But that's just what I'm saying is.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, it is interesting. We could raise here, right? But I think that his line is just really weird. Like he doesn't like the strongest he can be here is a 6. He can definitely never have a boat, and probably doesn't have many straights. To your point.
Yeah. I mean, if we just call here, the pot's going to be what is it? It'll be 240 or 260.
285, and we'll have 390 behind.
If we just call.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I wonder is like, so if we were to jam here, it's an overbet.
It's actually pretty similar to your King 5 hand.
But I guess like, if we jam here, is he ever going to fold a 6? I wonder.
I don't think so.
Why not?
I would be surprised, right? Like a 6 is pretty nutted here.
Yeah, I mean, your line would look very strong.
Yeah, but
But
I still don't think he would. And especially because very strong to him might mean that I have like aces.
mm-hmm.
You know, like he might see that and think, this guy's got aces.
Right.
So that's so strong. He's got the, and it's interesting. But like, do I have to play like he has a 6? Does he always have a 6 here, or does he have? Because
I feel like he mostly doesn't have a 6. I feel like this is just random trash. Which is if it's like, I feel like it's sort of like this is much more likely to be a bluff. In which case, if it's my question is like, if it's a bluff, is it better to simply call or raise?
I'd probably rather just call.
Okay.
With this particular hand.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting if we had like king queen of hearts.
Maybe we'd want to raise here.
Raise, but then he's gonna call though. So and then we lose a river.
Well, but he might. I mean, if we jam, right? If our raise size is jam, which maybe it is.
People will like to call off with a nut flush draw. So I actually don't think jamming. I think.
But does he want to call off? Would he call off with the worst flush draw?
You're right. I mean, if you had like ace 5 of hearts here or ace 4 of hearts,
right? Well, that's
maybe it's better to jam because you do lose to some bluffs, maybe too.
Well, I was gonna say if we have like ace 4 of hearts, I do like jamming, but also because it like means that he has a lot more bluff combos in his range. Because like us having 2 Broadway cards means there's only like 3 combos of high flush draws, with the 10 being a heart as well.
Yeah,
but if we had like ace 4 of hearts, it'd be king, king, queen, jack, and 9. There'd be a lot more combos there.
Yeah, I mean, if we just call here, are we ever gonna lead the river? Like, if a heart comes, do we lead river?
I don't know, right? If his range is like a 6 or like air, do we just check jam?
But do we know he's gonna value bet a 6 on the heart?
No, I mean we don't.
A lot of people.
So maybe we could probably do some leading.
Okay. Yeah, I just think we need to be cognizant of how we're going to play river. But I did want to explore this idea of like raising here, but I think ultimately it doesn't make any sense. So,
but I did try and have that in mind. I think you make a good point that we probably should do at least some amount of leading when we get there.
Okay, so you just call.
I just call. I'm not sure that's right. Like I could definitely still see merit to raising here.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, this was another sort of bizarre hand. Yeah, we've gone from punt to bizarre punt.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is a little. It might be a little spewy to jam here, to be honest. So I think just calling is probably okay.
Yeah, I mean, could I min click it?
No, I don't think that accomplishes anything at all.
Yeah. Well, that would be. I mean, we could definitely get value from like a worse flush draw is always calling a min click.
Sure.
So if our goal was to get value from worse flush draws, like that could accomplish that goal.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, now that you mention it, if we like min click here and then check all rivers that like basically check all rivers no matter what comes. Like, and if it's not a heart, we check fold, and if it is a heart, we check jam, or more likely just call a jam.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of interesting.
And that also still looks nutted when we like flat and then raise small.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, but then again, we could just be like, I mean, if he has trips and we min click, I mean, we're like torching.
Almost commit. We're probably. I don't even think we are committing ourselves though.
Oh, if we
made it 215 here and he jammed, I think we do have which I could see, right? If he does have a 6.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to commit ourselves. So.
They wouldn't, right? If we made it 215, I think we'd still we'd only have 15% equity against a 6. So.
I think honestly calling here is probably the best thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got me thinking that maybe I should have thought at least a little bit about doing something like thought about how maybe I get value from worse draw.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the pots. So I do just call. The pot's 285 and there's 390 left. And the river is going to come an offsuit 10. So the final board 10, 8, 6, 6, 10. The board is double paired. We had a heart. We have ace queen of hearts, which made a backdoor flush draw and then bricked it. And I think we are probably checking this a lot.
Yeah. I don't really see any reason to bet this at all.
Check and flow. And now villain bets 100.
It's like a snap call.
Well, okay, so this is where I started thinking. And this is I thought maybe I should call.
I do not like where this is going.
And then I thought, if his range is super capped, like I feel like I can have like a lot of 10s here. My opponent can literally never have a 10. Can I just rip it at him?
To accomplish what?
Like, I mean, fold out, like, I mean, if he does have a hand like 8-9 or 8-7 that he's just like frozen with, like we can fold that out.
But he's not going to bet 100 on the river with that hand.
You don't think so?
No.
What if he's got like, do you think we can ever fold out a 6?
No.
Because I think some villains live will fold like a 6 to a check jam.
Absolutely. If you have that read on that player is very much so like a big folder, which is not that common of an archetype. It's mostly like older guy.
Right. People who don't want to commit their stack, right?
Yeah. If he's like an older guy, but that's not the case here, right? So, I don't know. I think that is an exploitative play that you need to have evidence to make.
Right.
Because otherwise I think it's an absolute spew.
Right.
I think you can beat a lot of bluffs here, so why not like just call?
But like
I mean,
what bluffs? Like I don't think he has that many bluffs. I guess he doesn't need that many bluffs.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really. Like first of all, he's betting 100 into
almost 300.
Almost 300. So you need to be right here 1 out of 5 times, 1 out of 4.5 times. Like you think he can't have just like some random trash he's like trying to make a move with, like,
right? Or even if he's got those like heart draws.
Yeah, bricked heart draws. I mean, you block those, but he can also have bricked straight draws.
But like what bricks? Like you think he has like 5-7?
No, like Jack 9.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's possible.
Jack 9, Queen Jack, right?
Yeah, Queen Jack. He could. It's ambitious.
He doesn't need to have that,
right?
Because like, I don't even like this line makes no sense. Even with a 6, why is he betting 100? Like,
right. Well, and that's why I kind of thought of jamming too. Is like I feel like he's never that strong, and like I know, and maybe that does mean like if we jam here, we're probably over bluffing this spot. But like,
I mean, you have like I wouldn't jam really any ace highs here because I don't know, you just beat stuff.
Right. I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That seems like a spew. So it sounds like you did.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like, maybe he has a 6, but I kind of thought, and I've been thinking about this hand a lot after, and I was like, well, if I think he maybe has a 6, like it's probably a bad jam, because I don't, like I thought, yes, I thought the exact same thing that you brought up, which is like, players do fold like bottom boat here, but you probably should have that read on them that they're going to fold bottom boat.
Like, would you fold bottom boat?
I mean, depending on against the live population, quite possibly.
I don't know.
I mean, like if you bet this river and got jammed on by most live players, you're like dead.
Yeah, it's true.
And like I guess this is what I was thinking, and I mean, again, feel free to lambast it, right? But I was thinking like, I mean, this line just looks so nutted from me.
But I don't think he's going to fold a 6 anyway. Because most live players won't fold a 6 here because they'll be like, I have a full house.
Yes, getting people to fold full houses is not a good idea, right?
It's just generally does not happen.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah, I would not jam here. I think we're getting great odds. It's fine if we call here and lose. Like, that's not the end of the world.
Yeah. No, I think that you make a great point. I think I definitely should have just called. Anyway, I did jam. Because I was just like kind of thinking from his line makes little sense. Even if he does have a 6, maybe he'll fold it sometimes. But I agree. I don't think that it makes a lot of sense. So should definitely a big spew. And he pretty much snap calls with 7-6 of diamonds.
Yeah.
So.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's a weird. I mean, I'm surprised he has a 6 to be clear. I think it's weird, but like
I don't think it's that weird, right? Like he raised turn when he made trips and then he like froze up on the river. Like I do think it makes sense, and I do think it's a punt from my end.
Yeah.
So
this is like this is like rampage, a ram punt.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Rampage. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But this seems like the sort of play he would make. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's doing quite well for himself. So.
Yeah, he's a great poker player.
So I'll take it.
So that means it's a good play.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Rampage is awesome. But definitely I think this is too ambitious. And
yeah.
I mean,
No, I agree. I think I came to the same conclusion when I was thinking about it after. Is like, you know, I really should actually get the read that it's a guy who is the type of guy who's going to say, I'm not ready to go home and muck his 6.
Yeah, and I have seen, man, those guys are out there. I mean, I saw a guy like just full, like I was playing with this OMC type one time, but he was like an OMC both pre and post flop, which is not that common, but he was, and like just the folds this man would make, like there was like a random gut shot that got there on the river, and he was like, and he just snap folds like top face up, and he's just like angrily muttering, and I'm like,
meanwhile, like nobody has even like bet or shown cards, like
yeah, I'm just like, what is happening? So anyway,
yeah. Well, I think that's all. I basically came to the same conclusion, and you convinced me definitely. You know, I wasn't even considering calling really because I thought his range was I don't know, but I guess I should have called thinking that his range is like 6s or garbage.
Yeah, if it's 6 or garbage, then. Definitely.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, that was interesting. Well, anyway, everybody, you've been listening to this podcast episode for over an hour, and you still haven't liked, commented, or subscribed. That's absolutely crazy. I cannot believe that.
Yeah, you should do it. I mean, you've just listened to us punt aggressively for an hour and 15 minutes, and you haven't closed the video. I mean, that means you must like us enough to like, comment, and like and subscribe, and you know, leave a comment and feel free to tell us how bad we are at poker.
Please do. We always appreciate the negativity. So
yeah, I mean, you know, we need it to bring us crashing down once in a while.
Definitely. So yeah, thanks everyone, and next week we'll have some fresh hands from Josh and I playing in person. Maybe even a duel.
Maybe.
Happens.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.